Two guys either side of 50 with one dream to achieve middle-aged sporting glory. This is the Missing Links Golf Show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I do believe, if I am counting correctly, that this might in fact be episode 17 of the Missing Links Golf Show. Remarkable work. Andy Walker, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, it's been a great journey. I mean, 17 episodes. Who would have thought it?
Who would have? To be perfectly honest, who ever thought we had enough content to get through 17 episodes?
Well, who would have thought that we would have the type of content that would attract a global audience?
Oh, I'm glad you raised that. I really am.
Coincidentally, nice segue into.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, as you probably understand, if you've been listening from episode 1, you know that we are unscripted. There's no rehearsing. This is just an incredibly miraculous segue that Andy Walker has thrown in here, possibly off the bat of a conversation that we're having just before we press record. But anyway, it's an international show. I want to run off the list of countries that we are now going live on a recorded format into. And that is, of course, Australia, home country. G'day to all you Aussies out there. It's great to have you on board. We're loving your work. Probably everyone that's been listening for a while knows that we are, in fact, a big deal in the United States of America. What have you got to say to our American friend, Sandy Walker?
Howdy.
Really?
What about I keep coming back to Joey Tribbiani.
Yes.
That's all.
How
I can
you
think
doing?
Of. How you doing?
How you doing?
When I think of an American thing, and I get that it's just not.
Yeah.
But that being a massive Friends fan and having watched the show for years, I try not to go back to that default, which is sort of why I sort of paused a little bit. But
it was terrible.
It's the first thing that comes to mind when I think of an American greeting.
And as you should, I like it. We did an entire little session on American greetings at one point. I don't know if you remember.
We did.
But we did do that. We didn't get through all of the 52 states. I think it might be in the US. We didn't get through all of them. We got through a few. And then we settled on the fact that in quite a few of the states, hugging was in fact the formal method of greeting, which, as we know, Andy Walker, being a big hugger, was a big fan of.
Yeah. Love the hug.
Yeah. Hug it out, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, so that's the second country that we're involved with.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Setting new records once again. We also Japan. Konnichiwa, Andy Walker. In Japan. One of my personal favorites, Mexico. I'm not, in fact, sure what the greeting is in Mexico.
Well, it's I don't know if you know. Spanish. So
hola.
It be hola?
It is hola. Hola, Mexico. New Zealand. Choice.
Hey, bro.
That's it. Actually, it's not a good
the nod. Yeah,
it's not a good one for a sound-based show. No. Singapore. We're also in Singapore.
Okay, nice. I have no idea what hello is in Singapore.
I'm going to hazard a guess that we're probably involved with the expat community in Singapore, at which point, hello. It's a really good place to start. And newly off the blocks, which has only been over the last week or two, we seem to have exploded into Canada.
Wow.
Andy Walker.
Canada, heading north.
Yeah,
see,
north of the border.
I keep saying we're going up. You know,
we are.
And we are.
Up the compass, straight up, straight north. I would hazard a guess that this has probably got something to do with the fact that they are starting to think about spring and summer, and maybe a little bit of
they are the
snow
opposite
thawing.
Of us. Yeah, because we're just coming to the end of summer in Australia, obviously in the southern hemisphere, and heading north. They're probably just thinking about their golf season, of course, and something that I didn't really give too much thought to until sort of recently is that in some, especially those northern parts of the US and going to Canada,
Mm.
that there's actually an off season for golf. I
It's a
mean,
season. Yeah.
we play golf all year round,
We're very
but
lucky.
yeah, but in northern US and in Canada, it's a season. Like you can't
It
play
is.
golf for sometimes half the year or more.
Yeah. And this is where, we talk a lot about the Missing Links Golf Show high performance centers,
Mm,
both Central West and Central Coast.
yes.
And for a lot of people, this is the only way that they get to hit a golf ball for,
Yeah.
months at
Mm,
a time.
yeah.
We're very fortunate, Andy Walker, that we do get to play year round. So it's good. But we are in Canada. We're in a couple of places in Canada. We did pick up, we've got a couple of pings in Alberta, Calgary.
Nice. Yep.
Um, so that's cool. I think maybe the host of a Winter Olympics
Yes,
back
it
back
was.
in back
It
in the
was.
eighties,
It
possibly
was a
eighties or
little
nineties.
while ago. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
eighties or nineties. I think if I remember correctly. And personal favourite, we've certainly had a bit of a quite a boost from Saskatoon in Saskatchewan in central Canada.
Wow. Wow.
Mm,
And I must admit that before we did talk about this, I'd never actually heard of
shocked.
Saskatoon, but I've done a little bit of research on the place, and yeah, I've got a pretty good understanding that it's pretty much smack bang in the middle of
Central Canada.
central Canada.
I think might maybe have a foot in both the French and the English camps. I don't
Mm.
know my Canadian history brilliantly, but one thing I do know is that when I hear the word Saskatoon, I feel like that is just a fantastic name for a drinking vessel. You know?
Yes, definitely,
You know,
definitely.
I'll have a Saskatoon of whiskey, please.
Mm.
I
Mm.
mean, I don't know. Maybe the Saskatoonians quite enjoy a nip of whiskey. They probably do, particularly in the cold winters. And my deepest apologies if referring to the name of your city as a drinking vessel is offensive in any way, shape, or form. It is absolutely not meant in that way. As an Australian, a drinking vessel is certainly something which is highly regarded.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, yeah, so that's all. That's great. So, our global audience, welcome to the Missing Links Golf Show. We love having you a part of it. Please jump on the Facebook page and let us know a little bit about the history of where you're from. I'd
Mm.
be really interested
Absolutely.
to be educated. Now, speaking of being educated, Andy Walker, another
Yes.
very average segue on my behalf. Listener feedback.
Oh yeah, listener feedback. We normally start with listener feedback. So
We do. Listener feedback. I've got one piece of listener feedback that came through, in fact, earlier today, and I've got to say, this is right up there with my favorite piece of listener feedback. You don't know what this is yet.
even after the previous weeks of listener feedback, because we've had some good listener feedback over the
With
last few
It's a
weeks.
high bar. It is a very, very
Yeah,
high
right.
bar.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, in fairness, I don't think any piece of listener feedback is going to beat the story from the great Ted Walker.
Mm.
But this takes, yeah, maybe a slightly different view on things. So anyway, um, let's see. Where do we say? Where am I going to start? All right. Um, he says the
Yes.
word journey. Um, Allegedly, when binging our show, um, is used quite a lot in reference to the experience that you and I are going through by both of us, in
Mm.
fairness. We do like to reference the journey that we're on, that this is all part of the
Correct.
journey. I hadn't really picked up on it, but I've got to admit, after getting this piece of feedback, I went back and I listened to a couple of episodes today, and it does
Yeah.
get used quite a lot.
Mm.
Anyway, not a criticism. Loving the word journey. It is a
Mm.
journey. Life is a journey, and certainly our
Mm.
improvement in golf
We,
is a
we, we,
journey.
we are we are journeymen, I would
We
say.
are. But the feedback is this: I request you to swap out and use the following words.
He's not going to swap out velocity, I hope, is he?
No. Velocity is there
Okay.
for
Okay.
the long
Cool.
haul.
Yeah.
In fact, we probably could use that more. So try these on. Okay, try these on
Yeah.
for size instead of journey. So when we're thinking about the journey that we're on, we could use words such as quest. It's not a bad word.
Mm.
Jaunt. I like that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
this
Jaunt's good.
jaunt. We're on a jaunt.
Yeah.
This one, personal favorite, Wayfaring Odyssey.
A wayfaring odyssey.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you could possibly shorten it just to Odyssey. And what I like about that is its obvious reference to the putter, the brand of putter, the Odyssey. We could be on our very own Odyssey.
Mm, mm.
A migration, probably, that might be referencing the Serengeti Plain there, the Great Migration over the
Yep.
Serengeti.
Yep.
A pilgrimage.
Well, pilgrimage is interesting. I mean, it depends where I guess we're going in our golfing journey.
In our Odyssey.
I mean, look, if we ended up going to say St Andrews
Oh,
or
definitely a pilgrimage.
getting to Augusta, I mean that's a pilgrimage.
Hands down, it's
That's
a
got to
pilgrimage.
be that's not a journey. That's definitely
No,
a pilgrimage.
that's a pilgrimage. It could
I feel as though Quest, I mean,
Quest.
we're not
Quest?
hobbits, we're
Yeah, or a hotel chain. But Quest does have connotations of like a challenge to it as
mm,
well.
yeah,
That you have to achieve something. It's not
mm,
simply a movement from point A to point B, but
yeah, yeah,
you also have to overcome and achieve,
yeah.
which I think is relevant. Um, Pilgrimage, I like. Jaunt, it's interesting when you look at jaunt versus pilgrimage, you know, perhaps a
Mm.
pilgrimage, like you say, to St. Andrews or potentially to Augusta. Sure, pilgrimage. Possibly when we're talking about Mudgee, maybe it's more of a jaunt.
Yeah, I reckon Mudgee's probably the missing mix masters. I'm not necessarily
Don't think
thinking
it's a
that
pilgrimage.
it's not a pilgrimage.
No, it's more of a
It's
jaunt.
definitely more of a jaunt. Yes.
It's a
Yep.
jaunt. And then the last one is route, or as our North American friends would prefer to pronounce it, route.
Mm,
Now, that might be the path that we take on our Odyssey,
yes.
but I don't believe that it's descriptive of the actual jaunt or
Mm.
quest. So, anyhow, food for thought, Andy
Yeah.
Walker. As we
Yeah.
move through tonight's episode, the challenge
I'll have to think
is
about it.
how many of those words can you slide in when you're tempted to say journey?
Mm, mm. I like pilgrimage. Pilgrimage is
Okay.
good. I don't
Okay.
mind a pilgrimage.
Okay. When was the last time you?
I have actually had a pilgrimage to St Andrews.
Well, yes, you have. You have.
And a lot of years ago now, in fact, probably 20 years ago now, I had a
Yeah.
pilgrimage to St Andrews, spent
Yeah.
an obscene amount of money staying in the Old Course Hotel, but that's
Well, I
a
think you've got to do that. If you're going
well,
to go there.
and it's interesting because I got to the front counter. I hadn't booked because it was the off season,
Mm.
and I went up to the front counter and just talked to them about where I want to stay in the hotel, and they said, "Oh, we've got some rooms on the non golf course side of the
No.
hotel," and I went, yeah,
No.
no,
No.
I want if I'm going to come all this way from Australia, I want golf course views."
Mm.
And I think it was something back in the day, 20 years ago, it was something along the lines of £275 or something. It was when
This,
they,
like, we're talking. This is like 20 years ago.
yeah. So it was, and it was when the dollar was, and I don't know what the dollar is now, but it was more than three times the,
It's expensive.
yeah,
900 bucks a night.
yeah, it was something ridiculous like that. So it was the most expensive hotel room that I've ever stayed in, but it was pretty amazing as well.
Did you get the views over the course?
I did get the views over the course. I actually was my room was looking down 17, up 18, because they down the first and down the second, and then I sort of had to peer sort of have a put my face flat up against the window to look down the coast and down the course, but it was pretty much facing the old course
Nice.
clubhouse, and up and down 18 and 17 was pretty much right in front of me, and the fence line that you hit over was pretty
Mm.
much right in front of me. So it was, yeah, it was a once in a lifetime opportunity that I may do a second time.
Did you? Seriously, that's some of the best. Did you like? Obviously, great room. amazing
Yep.
view, historic
Mm.
view. Did you actually sleep, or did you just sit there the whole night looking up 18?
In no, no, interesting. I did like I went and had dinner. I found this really nice hotel in the town of St Andrews, and the people there were really, really hospitable.
Mm,
And they, when I got talking to a couple of people, and obviously, they found out I was from Australia, and I did not buy a drink all night.
nice.
And I have to say, the next day when
Pretty
I
dusty.
left, I felt very ordinary. I actually stopped. I actually went up, ended up at, went through the Scottish Highlands and ended up at Inverness, but I stopped at Carnoustie. And yeah, I got out of the car and I was very ordinary at Carnoustie. I'm glad I didn't get pulled over for a breath test because yeah, I don't think that would have ended up well.
Not have ended well. The good old
No.
Scottish hospitality, it's a thing of beauty.
Yeah. Yeah.
No listeners yet from Scotland, which is surprising. So if anyone knows
Mm.
anyone in Scotland, please pass us on.
Yeah,
We need to
one of
get
the
on that.
one of the best times of my life, I have to say, and will always remember my time in St Andrews.
Oh, outstanding. Who would have thought that piece of listener feedback would give us opportunity to reminisce about your pilgrimage? I, on the other hand, am yet to pilgrimate, but certainly hope to do that at some point.
Mm.
I don't know if that's actually how you turn it into a verb, but anyway,
Yeah,
sounded
I
good.
think Augusta. We got to do Augusta at
Oh,
some
that would be
point.
amazing.
Yeah,
Just would be
yeah,
amazing. I'd love to do that. I'm
mm,
wearing Augusta green tonight, by the way, also known as Missing Links green,
yep.
in honor of that suggestion. So, Andy Walker, great intro of 17 minutes, well played, yet
It's
again,
about
and
it's about our average, isn't it?
that's about standard.
Yeah.
Um, Before, like we do have a really very important topic to get onto tonight, which is a bit of a technical debate about the golf
Mm,
swing in some
mm,
respects. Um, but before we do, I would like to just duck back 2 episodes, Andy Walker,
right.
and have a little bit of a chat about episode 15,
Yep.
where we interviewed the great Scotty Fisher.
Yep.
Because there's been a few things that have happened as a result of this,
Mm, mm,
which we will come to. But I was going to talk about this last episode, and we got a little bit short on time, so I would like to slide it in because there was a couple of
yep.
things when I was listening back to that interview that really stood out for me. The first one of those was, you might recall, there was another mention that Scotty completely unprompted brought up about the Australian psyche,
Yes.
and the mental approach, which
Mm,
we first came across when we were talking to Neil Smith,
yep. Yep.
and that sort of deprecating outlook that the Australian male tends to have about
Yes.
their own ability about certain things. This is two unrelated sort of statements about this that have come up in two different
Mm,
interviews. I've got to admit, in all my years on Earth, I've never thought about this before, but there's got to be something to it, Andy
yep.
Walker.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Look, and what you say to yourself is really, really important, and not
Mm,
just on the golf course, but in life itself. The way you talk to yourself, uh, you know, I think that's really it leads down the mental health line.
mm,
It's critical, the way that you think, what you say to yourself, and the way that you think about yourself. Uh, as you go through life, because yeah, it's if you keep telling yourself that you're not good enough, or you keep giving your power away, and not giving yourself recognition for what you've achieved, then yeah, you're really not setting yourself up
yeah.
to be positive.
I think it's a huge point. And we've talked about, there's a couple of quotes we've talked about a few times, which is that you can never be any better than you think you are,
Yep.
which was one we talked about. And then the other one, which I think is Henry Ford, which we might have referenced in one of the previous episodes, which was whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right.
Yes.
Which I feel like it's all linked. So anyway, there was that. The other one that kind of strangely enough stood out for me was the conversation that you might recall that we had. Interesting reflection that we, now as circa 50-year-old blokes,
Yep.
well, at least you are. I'm still in my 40s, so Scotty.
As is Scotty Fisher. Yeah.
Yep. Anyhow, pretty close to the mark, though. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
at that point in life, we kind of identified that we're probably the last generation of the old school approach in a lot of ways, and
Mm.
certainly the last of the generations that didn't really have an understanding of nor take care of the mental side of the game,
Yes. Yep.
not only in
Yep.
golf but in many many things.
Mm.
And I think that's important because I think we're not the only ones that have probably suffered the consequences of that. But, like for
Yeah.
plenty of other people that listen to the show that might be of a similar age, that might
Yep.
just be one of those moments where you go, yeah, actually, that's a fair point.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and that I mean, traditionally, I remember, growing up, my dad, he showed very little emotion, but also his dad didn't show a lot of
Yeah.
emotion as well. Certainly didn't talk about your feelings and talk about emotions and that. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I always knew that my dad supported me and he loved me and I'm incredibly grateful to have that. But actually saying it,
Different.
there was, yeah, it's
So
very,
different.
very different. And words can be so powerful.
Yeah.
Whereas today's generation, certainly men, a lot of the young guys growing up are now learning how to actually have a conversation about how you feel and how important that is to have other males that you can talk to and share whether you're going through good times or bad. You can, if it's all
Yeah.
good, you have a bit of a laugh and you share in your quest, not your journey, your quest,
Nice. Nice.
sharing your pilgrimage.
Yeah.
Um,
Nice.
but then there's people that we can lean on and have a conversation with. And it
Mm.
doesn't mean you're going to have the answers, but at least you get it out there and get it off your chest, and you certainly feel a bit better about it after having that conversation.
Mm. Oh, hugely important. And definitely something that's changed, like for all those things that you talked about. And also just the simple fact of appreciating that in sport, not just golf, in sport in general, that the mental outlook and understanding of the mental side of the game actually won't won't turn you substantially into a better player than you're going to be, but it certainly prevents you from not living up to your potential. And it
Yes.
unlocks a lot of physical performance as well. And it
Mm.
can really change things. Like it's amazing how limiting the mindset can be with
Yeah,
a fixed mindset as opposed to a growth mindset, a
for
topic that
sure.
that we love.
Mm.
So there was a lot there. Really, really interesting stuff. Anyway, it got me thinking about a lot of those things because so much of what we'd already been talking about, and certainly what we'd heard from other guests on the show, from Neil, from Dave McClelland, for example, really got reinforced in that Scotty interview. So I feel
Yep.
like, I don't know, I feel like there's sort of a bit of a common narrative that we're unveiling in our odyssey um,
Mm.
as we move along jauntily.
I like it. I like it.
Um, yeah, so that was Scotty. So tonight, Andy Walker. A little bit of a segue from Scotty is that interview, as everybody knows, Scotty, fantastic golfer.
Mm.
Spent quite a bit of time as a touring professional across Australasia and South Pacific. Loved his story about the Fiji International or the Fiji
Yeah.
Open at the
Yeah, that's
time. It
quality.
was gold.
Yeah.
It was gold.
Yeah.
Scotty, took one look at the Facebook reel of my swing from side on and
Yep.
noticed a tiny little rock back onto the back foot and
Yep.
immediately diagnosed what he expected he was going to see with a down the line video,
Yep.
which proved to be right.
Yep.
Like that is an eye for a golf swing, mate.
Yeah.
Honestly, to be able to pick that from just one swing from the wrong angle. So he has since come on board. I wouldn't call him my swing coach. I think that's overstepping the relationship at the moment. But let's just say a vested member of the Missing Links Golf Show family who's been providing quite a large amount of
Mm.
instruction and feedback in the
Mm.
background,
What
which
about
which has been
what
awesome.
what about spiritual advisor? Would you?
No,
No. Okay.
no, no. I don't think spiritual advisor is accurate.
Okay.
Let's keep it to the golf swing.
Right.
But no, amazing stuff. Has pointed out some different methods, techniques, some drills, and those sorts of things, which I can do and have been attempting to do in the Missing Links Golf Show High Performance Centre Central West, in terms of addressing that. Because basically what it is, Andy Walker, it's the lower half of the body stalling, because the swing is getting a bit across the line and steep at the top.
Yep.
Which has been
very common, very common. And again, I've got that in my swing, which is what I'm fighting as well. So completely understand where you're coming from in those challenges in your swing.
Yeah, it's it's the sort of thing that leads to a bit of a push or a slice potentially, as well. Toe strikes, I think, has been something I've suffered with my irons from time to time.
Yep.
So a lot of it being due to the backswing coming a bit on the inside, being bottom hand dominant, which is interesting because I'm not. Like, I'm top hand dominant in terms of being a left-handed golfer, but I'm right-handed.
Yep.
So that's a bit of a surprise that that's sort of playing out, because anyway, it is. So trying to work through those swing changes, I have got to admit, I have never felt more uncoordinated in my life, as I have whilst trying to do some of these activities and generate, a pretty fundamental change to the way I swing the club. It's a massive challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, this is where I think breaking down your swing and doing swing drills, so not full swings. So you're practicing a specific move. Now, I don't know how far sort of you got with Scotty, but there's certainly some, depending on where in the swing you're wanting to change a specific move, there are certain drills that you can do, and the Missing Links High Performance, and it's a perfect place to be able to do it. Just get in there for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and just practice a few swing drills of the move that you're trying to make, and just isolate it to a certain position in your swing.
So there's two that I've been working on. One specifically was one that Scotty suggested, which is just a 3/4 backswing.
Yep.
So not letting it, because it's actually when it gets to the top for me that it's getting across the line.
Yep.
So 3/4 backswing, not letting it get to that point. But really the focus is on then driving that downswing with the core and lower body.
Yep.
To make sure that the weight shift happens to get onto the front side, which is where I've been struggling. The other one, which has been a bit of fun, is one that with, of course, Scotty's opinion hasn't been enough. So I've had to, go to YouTube just to get some verification on this. And this has actually been a really good drill. Is what I like to call the bucket drill.
Yes.
And that is the driving range bucket that you would put the balls in, empty that out, put that about 2 feet behind the ball, directly behind the ball on the line. And then your takeaway needs to go outside the bucket.
Yep.
And then your downswing needs to go inside the bucket, which is really getting width in the takeaway. And then the idea is that will help shallow the club on the downswing and swing from the inside out.
Yep.
I've actually really enjoyed that drill, and I used that sort of thought, that swing feel, out on the golf course this afternoon in a lazy little 10-hole jaunt that I had out there on the golf course. So that's been two things working on. That one I feel more coordinated with. The other one sort of, working on specific movements, and it's where I'm trying to avoid steepening and actually flatten out the backswing a little bit at the top, which is forcing.
Is that on your downswing rather than on the backswing, or are you trying to flatten it out on the backswing as well?
It's at the top. Yeah. So because the issue that I'm getting is as I get to the top of the backswing, I'm kicking a bit steep.
Yep.
And coming above plane, which is then leading to an over the top move on the way down.
Yep.
Rather than on the backswing staying on plane, and then to start the downswing and transition to maybe shallow a little bit under plane to come through.
That's classic Ben Hogan, as we briefly talked about last week,
which we will absolutely get to in just a moment.
I've been doing a little bit of reading about Ben. That's been very, very interesting.
Yeah, but I've got, like, that move for me, there's a different wrist movement that's required for me to pull that off. And that's
Mm.
the bit that I'm battling with.
Yep.
Because apparently, according to my friend, who shall be known as artificial intelligence, one,
Yes.
one of my other issues is a lack of wrist hinge
Mm.
in the top of my swing.
Yep.
So probably worth sharing that, Andy Walker. We've stumbled across an app.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give the name away because
Yeah,
we don't
it's
want
it's
we don't want
interesting.
to comment positively or negative on someone that we don't have any
Mm.
relationship with. But there is an app that we've stumbled across that is artificial intelligence. Basically, you film your swing, you upload it into the app, and it rates your swing.
Yep.
Gives you a score out of 10, which is
Yep.
confronting,
Yep.
and then highlights the many faults that you are guilty
Yes.
of executing in the swing.
And then sends you to YouTube.
It does. It sends you to relevant video. I actually really like it. I've got to say,
Yeah.
like, it gets a bit addictive
Mm.
in the high performance center to keep filming swings just in the quest to bump your numbers up closer to 10.
Yeah.
Andy Walker, you did achieve, I think, a dubious 10 out of 10 on a face on video. But your down the line videos are certainly not getting to
Yeah.
10 out of
No.
10 at the moment.
No. No. Look, I think I got one. My first one was 7 out of 10, and the second one was about 6.7. So yeah,
Yeah.
my issue with that app, and this is the whole thing. We talked about this is going to see a coach, an actual human.
Yeah.
They will look at your swing and they'll go, okay, uh, I can see where they're at now. I know where I need them to get to, and say there's 5 steps that you need to
Yeah. Yeah. It's one
to
at a
get to
time.
that step. It's one step at a time, and they will put it sequentially in place so you can easily get to step 5, right?
Yeah.
That AI app just gives you everything at once.
Yeah, fix the whole lot of it, guys. Here's how to do it. Go to
And
YouTube, watch all these videos, and you'll be fine.
and if you ever want paralysis by analysis,
Oh, it's a good way
that
of
is
doing it.
it.
It's a
That
good way
is
of
it.
doing it.
So
Mm, yeah,
I think that if you've got a good understanding of the swing and you understand that fixing swing faults is a step by step process, and you can break those faults down and put that process in place to start with, then yeah, if you've got that expertise, no problem at all. But I think the average golfer would just be way too confused
it
as to because
what
even I struggle with. I looked at what it said to me, and I just thought, okay, how do I put that into place?
mm.
And yeah, I
Did you read the tips though that it gave? Because what I really enjoyed was it said to me, amongst other things, you're crossing the line at the top, which
yeah.
I knew, like that supported what Scotty had identified. So crossing the line at the top, tips to improve. Went to tips
Mm,
to improve,
yeah,
and tips to improve was try shallowing the club at the top of the backswing.
yeah,
Like, thanks,
yeah,
thanks AI.
yeah, yeah. My coach, my new coach, has told me that.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. Oh, I'm too steep. Maybe I should shallow. Oh,
mm,
I hadn't thought about that.
mm,
That's amazing.
yep.
Artificial captain obvious
Mm, mm.
potentially.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because the couple of things that it did say to me, it said that I was too far on the backswing. I was too far inside the line,
Mm, I noticed that
and
too.
yeah, and that I collapsed my left side. Now that's pretty close to when I had that coaching session back in November. That's probably not too far away from the analysis that my coach had. However, yeah, as I said, I'm not convinced that going to YouTube, even though I have done that a number of times over the last few weeks, so I don't think
Mm.
that's the ideal way of dealing with it and
I,
finding a
I
solution, I guess.
I think I'm probably going to continue to use this app on and off, um, but probably more from a fun perspective than a
Yeah,
genuinely using it as the coach perspective.
yeah,
What I really do like about it, and the reason that I stumbled across it, is because all I wanted was something that I could use to draw some lines on the videos that I take of my
mm,
own swing in
Yeah.
the Missing Links Golf Show High Performance
Yeah.
Centre Central West.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I put in there, like, and I was thinking, oh, I want to be able to analyze my golf swing. So golf swing analyzer, I put into, to search in the App Store, and this is what came up. And
Yeah.
what I do like about it is that it's immediately got the swing plane
Yes.
lines,
Yeah.
and you can see all of that, and it does the little, robot body lines and those sorts of
Yes.
things that you see, and
Yeah.
and I think from that perspective, if you use it in the right way, it's really helpful.
Yeah.
I think if you take it too literally and you want to follow everything like you say, you're just going to twist yourself into a pretzel.
Yeah.
And the other
Yeah.
thing is, as you also rightly point out, there's two other elements to it. One is you don't necessarily need a perfect swing, but you need the
No.
matchups in your swing that work for you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you change the wrong things, you might actually really muck something else up.
Well,
But
yeah,
also,
and that's it. Like, and you see, like, you look at like Jim Furyk, or Matt Wolf. I
I
mean,
want to download one of their swings and put it in
yeah,
this app and see what they
and
say.
just see what it says. But can you imagine, like, Jim Furyk, for instance? I mean, he had a phenomenal career at
Yeah,
at golf, but he was very unorthodox,
yeah,
and but it worked, and
yeah,
that was the beauty of, and I don't know who his coach was, but his coach was, did the best job that he possibly could, in that he left alone those idiosyncrasies that worked
yeah,
and just made adjustments so that he could actually get the most from his natural ability.
yeah,
Whereas I think that this app won't allow that to come through, and I think you still need that human element
yeah.
to guide you through that process.
Yeah, yeah. I totally agree. Part two to it, you talked about before, was the order in which you change things.
Yes.
Um, and what happens with on this AI app is it will highlight your swing faults and it will categorize them either into a bad flaw or an okay flaw, which is a
Yep.
very interesting
Mm,
subset. But I've never
mm,
had an okay flaw. But anyway, um, so it's rating them. So I would naturally look at that, and the way the information is presented to you is that it presents the bad flaws first, and then you kind of
yep.
go in and find out what the okay flaws are. But obviously, you're going to lean towards wanting to fix the bad flaws before you talk to the okay flaws. Like that, I
Yeah.
think is just the way that the human brain's going to work. Um, but what if that's not the order in which you should be
Exactly.
approaching those things? And this
Exactly.
was my conversation with Scotty when he's talking about, sort the lower body out. Just worry about that. Don't worry about the top of the backswing. Don't worry about, do you get the whole way? Does it go across the
Mm,
line? Whatever the case may be. Because I also looked at the video and went, I feel like I've got a little bit of cupping in my lead wrist going on at the top. And he's like, slow down, Tiger. Just work on the lower half at the moment.
yep.
We'll get to the other stuff.
Yep.
Can't change everything at once. And I think that's the difference.
Exactly.
If
Yeah.
if he was the artificial intelligence app, he'd be telling me to change everything
Everything.
in
Yes.
one go.
Correct.
And there's no
Correct.
chance of that happening.
Yeah. Yep. And that's exactly what Joe said to me in November. There was our starting point. She gave me sort of three things that she wanted me
Yeah.
to work on. And she said, this is just the start,
Yeah.
and unfortunately I haven't been back to see, I haven't had a chance to get back to see yet, which I'm hoping to change next month, but that's a different conversation. But
Would that be
yeah,
a
so it's
pilgrimage? Will you go on a pilgrimage down to
possibly,
Joe?
yeah, possibly. Um, I don't know. It could be a mission.
Oh, I don't even know. Was that on the list? I don't know that was
No,
on
it
the
wasn't.
list.
It wasn't. But
Yeah.
it's a pathway, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
So maybe we can like start coming up with a list of alternate words to journey that
Yeah.
we can just put in to describe where we're heading to.
Yeah. Journey, fantastic band from the 80s and 90s in the US. Don't Stop Believing. Great
Mm,
anthem.
mm.
Yeah, one of my favorites. Anyway, you were saying.
That's pretty random. So yeah, so the sequence in the way you go about changing your swing and improving your swing.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that, even though it categorizes maybe a bad fault and a not so bad fault, maybe fixing the not so bad fault also fixes the bad fault.
Yeah.
You've just got to go about it in the right order.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
there's a lot to
Yeah.
be
Yeah. Yeah.
there's
True.
still a lot to be said about going to actually see a human. And this is where I think AI is really powerful, and pretty much exactly what you said is you use it in conjunction to as checkpoints
I think that's the
in
key.
in the road,
I
in
think
that you
that's the
go,
key.
well, all right, well, my coach has told me that, and in my instance, collapsing my left side,
Yeah.
okay, I could use this app to check to see if I'm still collapsing
If you're
my left
doing it.
side. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And,
That's
and
right.
if I'm not, I can
Yep.
make adjustments as I go along and as I'm practicing to change that and to keep my sort of hips a little bit quieter while I make a full shoulder turn.
Yeah. No, that, and I think that's where its use is really good.
Yeah.
And for those things, for example, what Scotty was saying that I need to work on in the short term, this gives me at least an analysis tool to work on that when I'm on my own, when I don't have a teaching professional standing there looking
Yeah.
at the swing all the time, going, no, you got in
Mm.
the wrong position. Because I do think, we talked about the feel versus real issue and
Yeah.
how, someone, you might receive instruction that says you need to do a bit of this. You think you're doing it, but you're not. And that's where I think apps like this can certainly play a
Yeah.
role. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been taking, while I've been doing some practice in the high performance center, I've been taking video to check myself. But it's just the
yeah,
iPhone video. There's no, analysis, or there's no lines or any of the sort on top of that. So this
mm,
potentially could be. And I played around with it for 10 or 15 minutes the other day, and I then turned it off because I was like, no, this,
it
I'm
was
not going to
hurting your
use.
self-esteem, wasn't it?
Well, yes, it was. It was, which, let's face it, at the moment, where my swing is, I don't have a lot of confidence in it. So I need all the leg ups that I can, and this wasn't really sort of doing it for me.
Mm,
Whereas giving it some thought and having some conversations, I do think it sort of changed my mind a little bit, and I do think there are some advantages in using it for those checks and balances.
yeah, no, definitely, definitely. So, Andy Walker, types of swings as well. I think
Mm.
this is something that we want to talk about. This was a bit of a topic that we discussed that we need to debate,
Yes.
or at least have a chat about, because
Mm.
an analysis of a swing, well, look, that's one thing, but what is the model swing that you are
Yeah.
analyzing against? Like any audit, any check, there's got to be a set of parameters that you're measuring against. And in the golf
Mm.
swing, there are a few. We may well refer to this episode as Moe Norman versus Ben Hogan,
Mm.
um,
Yes.
and I think we agree that that's probably two really clear different paths.
Yep. Yep.
And I
And
use the
and
word
that was the
paths
question.
deliberately.
Yeah, and that was the question that I asked when we were talking about this app. The first question that I had about what the analysis that it gives is what's it basing that analysis on? What parameters is it using? And that's just the coding that's in the app. That
Sure.
whoever coded the app has put in a set of parameters that, according to them, is the way that you need to swing a golf club.
Mm.
And then, you come back to Ben Hogan and Moe Norman, probably from a ball striking perspective, are two of the greatest ball strikers of all time, and widely viewed as that. Obviously, Ben Hogan won, I think, 9 major championships, and one of the greatest of golfers of all time, whereas Moe Norman didn't really do much on the PGA Tour. I think he won a couple of events on the Canadian Tour. But
Yes.
he just loved hitting golf balls,
Yeah.
and he got to a point where he was such a good ball striker. And I've watched a couple of YouTube videos on him, and he said that he's practiced his swing so much that he quite literally can't hit a bad shot. And that's, it's a bit
You
mind
can't
blowing. I
say
know.
those words out loud to the golf gods.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Mo Norman, he was certainly an unusual character.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
true.
he he wasn't he wasn't what I would sort of consider to be a normal bloke, obviously. But I think they're, in every sort of great endeavor, when you reach that level. I mean, Ben Hogan was also quite unusual in a lot of ways as well. But every great, whether it be an athlete or an artist or businessman, they've all got their own, idiosyncrasies,
They
which
do.
which
A
which makes them a
savant,
bit unusual.
perhaps. Maybe a savant
A
of the golf swing.
savant, yeah,
Savant.
maybe,
Yeah. Get
maybe,
your thesaurus out.
yeah,
So yeah, potentially. I mean, very, very unusual swing too, I've got to
mm,
say.
yes,
Um,
mm,
but as you say, incredibly effective. But I think, is it fair to say, Andy Walker, that the hallmark of the Moe Norman approach was single plane golf
yes,
swing, up and
yeah.
down, same plane?
Well, yeah. I mean, you look at his address position, and his address position, his hands are very high,
Mm.
and effectively his hands at address are the same position as what his hands are at impact.
Is it a little reminiscent of, for a modern day player, of Bryson DeChambeau?
Um,
Because he's
Possibly,
golfing machine. He's home at Kelly golfing machine.
yes, yeah, yeah, and yes, it's similar, although there are differences. I mean, Mo Norman also has a very wide stance,
He does have
and
that. And a lot of weight
look,
on the front foot, actually.
yeah, and looks. And there are a couple of sort of different videos where I was sort of looking at him. He looks as though he's a little bit closed at address as well. So I don't know whether that was the video angle or whether he
Hard to know.
actually
It caught it, like, quite frankly, it could have been those Larry green pants that he was wearing as well in that particular video.
could have been as well. Could have been as well.
Yeah.
But has a very strong grip
Yeah.
as well, which is a little bit unorthodox. But basically uses the same plane, backswing and follow through. And he also made a
Yeah.
comment that he keeps the club face square up to 22 inches after impact.
It's just such a weird start.
Like it's just, yeah, it's a really interesting swing. And
So
look,
there's not
I
really
encourage
much
it.
release to be able to do that.
Well, I think part of it, and you look at the videos of his swing, he's actually got a fair bit of his front left knee.
A
He's
lot of
actually got
flex.
a lot of flex moving forward, whereas a more traditional golf swing, certainly on the downswing, you do move forward in the first instance. Your hips do move laterally forward, but then it's then your hips moving left and turning.
Mm.
Whereas he's got a lot of forward movement, forward lateral movement, and then he turns. So
And he
it's
kind of
quite a
stands up a bit through the swing as
yeah,
well and through
yeah.
impact.
So although yeah, he doesn't overextend. He still stays down through impact, but then certainly afterwards,
Mm.
after
Points the club up to the sky in
yeah,
the direction the ball's going. That's a
that's
bit
a
of a
bit
weird finish.
yeah. So he's got some interesting idiosyncrasies, but
Yeah.
look, there's a guy by the name of Todd Graves who basically studied and replicated his swing, and I watched a number of Todd Graves YouTube videos, and he does some a lot of analysis on Moe Norman, and I found it quite interesting because one of the things that Moe Norman is very adamant about is shallowing the club. And that's very consistent with Ben Hogan. Ben Hogan was also all about shallowing the club as well.
Mm.
So he talks about that's a key part of his move, that he will never come from over the top, from outside in. It's always coming from the inside
Inside
on
out.
a shallow plane, which is basically the same plane as he uses for his backswing. So
Yeah.
yeah, very very unusual, very unorthodox, but obviously works for him. It wouldn't be something that I would want to replicate. I wouldn't. I think there are probably things you can take out of his swing. There are some concepts like the shallowing of the club, but it's not. It's certainly not a swing that I would replicate. I think it'd be
Wouldn't
very
call it
difficult to replicate it.
I wouldn't call it aesthetically pleasing.
No.
But I want to pick up on something that you talked about, because I'm just mindful of a wide variety of people potentially listening to the Missing Links Golf Show in, of course, as we mentioned, a wide variety of countries.
Yes.
You talked about Moe Norman having a particularly strong grip, which is
Yes.
unorthodox. obviously a lot of golfers will know what you're talking about, but some may not, Andy Walker. And a strong grip, of course, does not mean that you're just gripping it super tight.
No, no, no.
What does it mean?
So a strong grip is when you're gripping the club on the, well, certainly for a right hand golfer, on the right hand. So you're turning your hands to the right hand side of the grip. So both your left hand and your right hand. So a weak grip. So Ben Hogan, for instance, Ben Hogan struggled with a hook in the early part of his career. So one of the fixes that he had to compensate for not hitting a hook is he had a weak right hand. Now that means his right hand was more towards the left hand side of the grip. And as you can imagine, that will, it's very difficult to then turn the club over more with your right hand. So it basically neutralizes your right hand and potentially even opens the club face up through impact.
So is it fair to say, to give people a visual, that if you have a strong grip and you're at address and you look down at your top hand, you will see more knuckles?
More knuckles, correct.
If you have a weak grip, you'll be seeing more of the palm of your hand and more of your fingers wrapping around.
And that's basically the opposite for your right hand.
With
a right-handed golf, obviously your bottom hand. Yes.
See, we have a lot of challenges in our conversations because you're right-handed and I'm left-handed. And there's this is something I was actually thinking about the other day, that in cricket, it doesn't make as much a difference because we've got things called the offside and the leg side, the front foot, the back foot, the top hand, the bottom hand, square of the wicket, straight down the wicket, these sorts of references, which are not handist.
Yes.
I find golf as a sport particularly handist. And a lot of golf instruction is written from the right-hander's point of view.
Yes.
With the right hand this, the left hand this swing will make it go left or make it go right, rather than it will make it go to the offside or the leg side or the slice side or the hook side, for example. That's just a reflection. I think
I also think
want to address that.
I also think that that's because the vast majority, and I think it's more than cricket or say tennis, like racket sports, where there are still a reasonable percentage of left-handed, whether it be cricket players, batters, bowlers, tennis players in golf.
There's a reason for this. Why there's not as many left-handed golfers. There is a reason.
I think certainly from a club manufacturing perspective, like the vast majority, I was thinking about it, because my daughter, because my son plays cricket, played cricket throughout the summer, right-handed batter. My daughter comes along to cricket training and wants to do what her brother's doing, right? So she's like, "Oh, Dad, can you throw some balls at me? I want to bat." I'm like, "Yeah, no worries at all." We went into the nets, so the two nets. One was being used by my son's team, and there was a spare net, so we went to the spare net. Stan's left-handed.
Awesome.
And I went, "Oh, okay, that's interesting," and started throwing balls to her. She actually smoked it. I was really surprised. But then she goes and wants to play golf because she sees me in the garage now practicing my golf, and she wants to do the same thing. She wants to come with me. I don't have a left-handed set of golf clubs for her.
Right.
I've only got a right-handed set of golf clubs, which was my son's old set of golf clubs. So she will only learn how to play right-handed unless, and I've been thinking about what I should do about it, whether I go to a golf shop or get her properly fit out to see whether she wants to stand on the left-hand side or the right-hand side of the ball.
And this is the point, because there is no such thing as a left-handed tennis racket or a left-handed cricket bat. So as a kid growing up playing those sports, being left-handed does not inhibit you from using equipment, and you can pick up older brothers, dads, mums gear and use it however you want to use it.
Yes.
Golf is different. People don't have, I mean, I do, I've got left-handed clubs lying around. In fact, if you want to borrow a few left-handed clubs, they're probably a bit big, but just to see if she feels more natural on that side of it, then that's absolutely fine. But it's not a usual thing, and there are many, many stories
Mm,
of left-handed people that play golf right-handed, and they don't do it
yeah.
particularly well because it's the wrong way round.
Mm, mm,
That predominantly is why there are fewer left-handed golfers,
yeah.
is access to equipment. And what generally happens with left-handed people is that they give it a go with right-handed equipment and they're not very good, and they give it away and they just never go back to it because they think they're no good.
Yeah, right.
That's my rant on behalf of left-handed people
Mm,
around the world.
mm,
I've got your
yeah,
back. Don't worry.
yeah.
But we just need at some point to change the vernacular so that we can describe the golf swing to left-handed people, that they don't have to translate it in their brain going, no, left means right and right means left the whole time,
Mm.
because that's what you've
Well,
got to do.
well, it's interesting because when and I'm becoming better at it when we talk about golf
Yeah.
and you talk about hitting it left, I think,
Yeah.
oh, he's hooked it,
No.
but you
That's a
haven't.
block.
And
It's a block
and
slice.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
it's taken me a long time to actually go, and I've still deliberately got to think about it when you
Yeah.
say, oh, I hit it left.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
That's my
what?
whole life on the golf course is translating the stuff that you right-handers talk about.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Um,
Didn't
it,
think we were going down that tangent tonight,
no,
but
no,
anyway,
no, no.
it's an interesting one.
Sounds like you may have a few issues there, Mr. Hinks.
Ah, I have many. Crossing the line at the top of the backswing being one, and inside takeaway being another.
Just being
Um,
left-handed.
yeah, maybe I've been doing it wrong because I've been going left when I should have gone right, and
Yeah, good
yeah,
one.
who knows? I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't
yeah,
know. Anyway, we've got a lot of
cool.
things to work through.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it was even to the point though when I got one of the messages from Scotty, and he was going, if you do this and do this, and that's going to be why the ball wants to go left. And I mean, do you mean right? But he actually meant left. Well, he had it the right way
Yeah,
around,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
was second guessing it
Well,
because
he's a professional, isn't he? So, he does it for a
he
living.
is. He does.
Yeah.
He's
Like we
and
have gone way off tangent.
oh, there, ladies and gentlemen, is some shocking news.
Yeah, yeah. Like
But it's all right.
from talking about Moe Norman and
Yeah,
the technical aspects of the game
yeah.
to the
To the
rant
challenges
about
of left-handers. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. I'd like to know how long that went for. I'm going to check that later.
Yeah,
Anyway,
did not expect that tonight, but anyway.
no, but you know what? That's the beauty of the Missing Links Golf Show, Andy Walker. It's expect the unexpected. It could go anywhere. Could go anyway.
Bit like my golf game at the moment, but anyway, that's
It's
it.
we're back to Forrest Gump, the box of
We are,
chocolates.
we are, we are. I like it.
Never know
I
what you're
like
going to
it.
get.
Yeah.
So on that, just because
Mm.
hey, we're off script now, so let's just free let's
let's
free let's freewheel.
let's run with it.
So hang on,
We're on a
this
mission.
is that's me screwing up. Whoops, the not even script, just the bullet points and throwing it over my right shoulder, which is a good throw for a left-hander. So Journey, okay.
Yes.
Um, I just reminded myself that we talked about before, excellent band from the US in the 80s, 90s. Little known fact, Andy Walker. Were you a Jimmy Barnes fan at all?
Yes. Yeah.
Um, favorite Jimmy Barnes song? What would you say? Not Chisel, but Barnesy.
Um. Probably. I mean, look. Working Class Man was obviously the big one.
Yeah, so let's go with
Um.
that. Let's go with Working Class Man,
All
just
right.
because it's a
All right.
fantastic answer to this
Yeah,
question.
everyone probably knows Working Class Man,
Yeah,
so it may not have been my absolute favorite,
great song, Australian anthem.
but great song.
I think we all agree, Australian anthem. Like
Because
everyone.
second prize, I quite like the that song as well. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Don't wreck my segue. Let's stick with Working
all right.
Class Man.
Well, Working Class Man.
Um,
Let's go back to that.
yeah. Who do you reckon wrote that song?
Well, because I do know that Ian Moss did write quite a lot of
Oh,
the
that's
Cold
Chisel Days. Yeah,
Chisel songs. So it was a Chisel was a collective effort.
but remember, this was not a Chisel
No,
release. This was Jimmy Barnes on his own. You might be sitting there going, "Why on earth is he talking about Jimmy Barnes songs after referencing Journey?"
because Journey wrote it.
Journey wrote it.
There you go.
Mm, yep. Which is
Interesting.
why they're referencing, like a cyclone across the wide Midwestern sky. Um,
Mm.
it's actually a lot of American references in that
Yep.
song.
Mm.
Um, Great song,
Mm. It
great
is.
band.
Mm.
Yep, great band. Could be a theme song for our pilgrimage.
Could be. Could be.
Anyway, that's right out there. Let's get back to Ben Hogan. So we've talked about Moe
Mm.
Norman. That was a
Yes.
fantastic little aside, ladies
Mm.
and gentlemen,
Mm.
for your 80s, 90s rock trivia. Um, Good aside, but I've lost the plot now, Andy Walker. Totally lost the plot.
Did you ever have it? I mean,
No, no,
let's be
no, no,
honest.
no,
Yeah.
no, I didn't. Anyway, we need to keep moving because we're on
Yes.
a time limit now. But Ben Hogan, we need to reference because we talked a bit
Yes.
about Moe Norman, but Ben Hogan, what does he
Mm.
offer us from a golf swing
Look,
perspective?
and I've been doing a little bit of reading about Ben Hogan. I think I mentioned last week I've been reading his 5 lessons. Now I haven't been all the way through it at this point. I've sort of just been picking pieces out that I think are interesting. Now, the way Ben Hogan goes about his golf swing. So on his backswing, he talks about being on plane with
Mm,
in your backswing. And if anyone doesn't understand plane, if you're standing sort of down the line, watching a golfer swing, you take where the ball is, where his club head is, or her club head, and you draw a line basically through their shoulders and up. That line from the ball to the shoulders is at address is the swing plane that a golfer has, right?
Another way
So
that Ben Hogan liked to explain it, though, was the pane of glass.
yeah, the pane of glass. So again, so if you have a large pane of glass and you've got a hole in the pane of glass, you put your head through
See,
through
I
the
don't think I'd
hole
want to
and
do that.
no, and rest the pane of glass on your shoulders, and then obviously the end of the pane of glass is where your club head or ball is.
Mm,
That's a good visual reference to where to your
where the
swing
club
plane.
needs to
So
go.
yeah, so he talked about on your backswing, keeping the club on that plane.
Mm.
And then in the downswing, and it's interesting because he doesn't specifically say sequencing, but what he says, and I'm going to quote here, is the downswing is initiated by turning the hips to the left, the shoulders, arm, and
See, again,
hands.
turning the hips to the target.
Yeah, and when you've got your hips turned, they do actually turn back to the left slightly, but the hips go forward as well first, and then they turn to the left. Quite well.
Only if
In
you're a
in
right-handed golfer.
well, yes, I'm referencing Ben Hogan, so this is what he was talking about with being a right-handed
Ladies
golfer.
and gentlemen, this is my issue with golf instruction.
So yeah, then he says the shoulders, arms, and hands in that order, then release their power. So that's what sequencing is. That
Yeah,
is
totally.
exactly it's hips, shoulders, arms, then hands in that order as you release. Now, he does talk about, there is a weight shift from your back foot to your front foot in
Mm.
the first instance. Notice how I didn't say right foot to your left foot.
And so much easier for me to understand. Otherwise, I would have been pushing back off the ball,
Yeah, yeah,
which would be not
and
good.
and then your lead hip
Yes.
will then make a turn, and quite, and what he says is that you actually can turn your left hip, or your lead hip, sorry,
Lead hip. Thank you.
your lead hip, as fast as what you want. Okay, he said you don't need to hold that lead hip back. But what he
So,
talks about in the club, in the path of the club, is that, and he talks about back to the pane of glass, is that if the pane of glass turns slightly on the inside, so as a right-handed golfer, slightly it's then pointing slightly right of your target. Obviously, the opposite for a left-handed golfer. That should be your swing plane on your downswing, which again is shallowing the club. But he talks
Yep.
about it in relation to the pane of glass and being below the your plane on the backswing.
Yeah.
So it's a very similar concept. Certainly the shallowing of the club on the downswing. It's a very similar concept to Moe Norman. They both have that sort of consistency there, but that's probably about
That's where it ends.
where it ends. Because I mean Ben Hogan is a very classic orthodox golf swing,
Mm.
whereas Moe Norman, not so much.
Unorthodox.
Mm, mm.
If
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I think I think that, and that to me is where I'd like to get my golf swing to, and learning
To
how
Ben
to,
Hogan's, I think
yeah,
we all would. It's fair to say.
if I could just hit it like Ben Hogan, I'd be happy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
Mm, yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, so it's quite an interesting comparison, and there's a number of sort of YouTubers out there, pro golfers who put together, whether it be YouTube videos or courses. There are some, obviously, there's a couple of courses that are free. There are others that you pay for.
Mm.
But yeah, there's a number of golfers out there, golf professionals out there putting content on how to shallow the club, but yeah, how to, I guess, self-diagnose some of
Oh,
those
slippery
swing
slope.
issues. Yeah, it is. It's a very
Slippery
slippery
slope.
slope.
Slippery slope. Um, so I think we're in unanimous agreement here between the two of us, at least, which would, by definition, just be an agreement, that Ben Hogan is the swing we would rather emulate rather than Moe Norman.
Oh, for sure, for sure. There's no question, and
Yeah.
I'd probably prefer his tournament record over Moe
Yes.
Norman's as well.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
just quietly,
So
or not.
The Moe Norman v Ben Hogan debate,
Ah, look,
unanimous victory to Ben Hogan. Is that what we're
I,
saying?
I yeah, look, I think there are certainly elements of Moe Norman that you can look at, and you can take and go, okay, I can understand how that works. And certainly, as I said, the shallowing in the golf swing, on the downswing is certainly one. But if I was to emulate a golf swing from start to finish, yeah, Ben Hogan every day of the week and twice on
Mm.
Sunday.
Twice on a Sunday. Nice.
Twice on a Sunday. Yep.
Nice.
It's the holy
Um,
day. And the tournament doesn't begin till the back nine on Sunday. So, you know,
it's the holy day when you would make your pilgrimage to the back nine.
correct.
So nice work. Nice work. I've embraced that piece of listener feedback. I think
Mm,
that's helped us without a doubt.
yep.
Andy Walker, we are getting close to that time. I would like to float an idea by you, though,
Yes.
which we've not yet discussed.
Mm,
So I'm happy for you to think about it. You don't have to give me an answer immediately, but the idea is this. There's been requests for some level of competition
yes.
between the two of us. Now, that's difficult for a few reasons. We haven't been able to land on what this might be. And we've had conversations about strokes gain metrics, just not quite sure how to do that. Conversations about commitment to training programs, which is a good idea. We could potentially factor it into it. We've decided that we don't want to go on a race to a handicap number because that, being outcome driven. So I want to suggest this. And it is this simple, that each month, our best competition score with the differential score versus our handicap,
Yep.
as a percentage, right? So
Mm,
if your handicap was 10.0 and your differential was 9.0, you've come in 10% under your handicap, right?
yep. Yep.
if that makes sense.
Yep.
I
Yep.
would like to suggest that we have a monthly competition and that it scores points throughout the year. And the points are this, that the winner gets 3 points for a win.
Yep.
If it's a tie, it's 1 point each.
Yep.
I know it doesn't add up to 3. It doesn't have to. The loser gets 0 points.
Mm.
But here's a caveat. If you
Yep.
fail to register a competition round in the month,
Yep.
it's -1.
Okay. Okay.
So
Yeah. Look,
that's
I'm happy to have that as a starting point. That's that I think that's actually quite good because that forces us to
that's right.
play a comp,
Yep.
which I think we're both agreed is a very
It's important.
important part of the pilgrimage.
Yes, it is.
What about implementing like an AI element that we've got to get, how close we are to a score of
Oh,
10?
oh, oh. Can I think about that? Because that's
Just for a bit of fun.
oh,
What does AI think about our
I,
pilgrimage?
I don't know about putting it in the competition. Okay, I've got to admit, I feel a bit queasy about that. But what I will say is this: we will share some photos of the AI
Yeah,
assessment
yeah. I think that'd be
on
great
the
if we
on the
could do that.
Facebook
Yeah,
page
for
because
sure.
it
For
it
sure.
it's
Yeah,
fantastic and
yeah,
it's pretty exposing in some
yeah.
respects.
And
Um,
and interestingly as well, talking about sharing on Facebook, and we did speak about this briefly before we jumped on to record, is that I have been doing a few drills to be able to get my club head in the position, shallow in the club, and there's a couple of things on my takeaway that I'm trying to get in order as well. And just doing these drills, I've hit a couple of absolute
mm,
rank, well, shanks. They are.
Shanks,
They're
Shranks.
yeah, rank shanks,
Yeah,
which I have recorded and I've quickly deleted. But then I've sort of gone, yeah, maybe a bit of fun. We
you got
should
to share it.
just
You got to share
just
it.
share it,
Can you
just to
get them back? I
yeah.
full disclosure, as I mentioned to you earlier, not only did I hit a shank, I actually hit one off the inside of the hosel. It was that bad.
But that's
So
talent for you right
that's
there.
getting the entire hosel outside of
Yeah.
the center of the golf ball, which was
And and
good.
I- and
But
I thought my effort with the stack and the Garmin,
oh
I thought that was a good effort because I must admit that was
yeah,
in shank territory
yeah,
as I lost my balance on the step swing.
yeah.
But that I think that's a whole new level.
It is. It actually is. It is. And I don't even think there's a name for it. Is the thing. I don't think anyone else in the history of golf has ever done that before. Um,
I reckon
so
someone probably has.
fair point. Um, anyway, there's stuff, definitely stuff to share, and I think
Mm,
as we pursue this adventure of the golf swing, which is what we're
yeah.
doing, we definitely need to share some of the less fantastic videos. Not that we've
Mm,
really curated the videos. To be perfectly honest, all we've really done is we haven't filmed a lot. So what we've filmed, we have
yeah.
basically chucked onto Reel.
Yeah.
So I
Mm,
think at the moment, though, we're at the point where we agree that we probably want to film a bit more
yep.
and we want to put some more stuff out there. Incidentally, the video that I put out there about how to check your strike location, which did quite well with the foot spray, putting that on the club face. I did get one question which came through from someone that I know quite well, that said of all the sprays out there, why did you have to pick tinea spray? Okay, the reason is that it's really good for that. Like it's a chalky spray that just wipes off your club,
Mm,
and it's much cheaper than any of the actual sporting chalk sprays that you can
yeah.
purchase. So
Right.
there's a
Okay.
reason why I selected that, and that was
Yeah.
part of the whole purpose of doing that video. Is going use
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
kind of you know foot spray. There's a million brands out there, but it
So
works a
where,
treat.
like, would you just get it at your local pharmacy? Is that the place to get it?
I actually bought it
Or
at Woolies.
oh, right. Okay. Just
Yeah,
supermarket. All right.
yeah,
Good one.
yeah. But yeah, pharmacy, anything like that.
Mm,
You can do that. Spray it on the club, hit a ball, and you see exactly where the impact point was.
mm,
It's really, really useful because just to start to get a sense of where you're striking it. And the more that you do that, then you probably learn a bit of how it feels in certain
Mm.
parts of the club as well,
Yep.
which is good. It's a good, just a good feedback source. So
So
thoroughly
so
recommend
so
that.
so when you're spraying the club face, do you actually go around the hosel now?
You know, you know what? It's funny you say that. I hadn't, but when I did hit the the inner thigh shank,
Yeah,
for want of a better term,
yeah.
and like it felt really strange, as you can imagine.
Surprisingly, I would
Yeah,
never have guessed.
and the ball came off at a bit of a jaunty angle, and I looked down at the club, and the first thing I was thinking is, I wish I had the foot spray on it to see exactly where this is.
Yeah, that would have been quality. Absolutely.
Because if I did, I promise you, I would have taken a photo of it and I would have
Yeah,
sent it to you.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but no, I didn't. I hadn't sprayed it at that point.
Go on.
Because I was doing a drill
Mm.
and it
Yeah,
was felt really, really uncoordinated. It was.
yeah.
But anyway, this is all in the quest to improve.
It is. It
So
is.
we continue to fight the good fight. But Andy Walker, I think if you're happy with that as an idea
Yeah.
for a competition, did you play a comp in January? I think you
I
did.
oh, I don't know. I'd have to go back and have a look potentially. I obviously I know I did in. I don't think I did because I don't think I did in January or December. To be honest with you, I think the Missing Links Masters
You played.
in November. Got to get the right app. Just pull up two different apps, which aren't the one that I'm after.
Oh, this is such good live podcasting right now, ladies and gentlemen. This, if
Actually, yes,
anything,
I did on the
is
23rd of
proof.
January.
I thought
I
you did.
I,
You
I
played one
didn't
there.
in yeah, I didn't in December, but
No,
I
but you
played
have in
one on the
January,
23rd of
and you have
January,
in. Correct me if I'm wrong. You have
February.
in February,
Yeah,
which means we can start this as a full calendar year, and we can backdate the
we'll
competition into
backdate it.
January.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
information to come, ladies and gentlemen. But this is what we're doing. This is a 12-month quest challenge competition, and at the end of the 12 months, there will be a winner
Mm.
who will
So,
win a
so
prize.
here's a question. Then, do you want to backdate it because you had a couple of good rounds in January? Is
No,
that why you're trying to backdate
no,
it?
no. There's no way I would
Hang on.
do that, Andy Walker. It's purely to do with just a neat 12 months, January to December. That's all.
Mm, I'm gonna have to check that out. I don't. It's not that I don't trust you.
Oh, yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's be honest. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, that is the contest from January 1 to December 31st.
Mm.
And it's just your best round of the month. Just best round of the month. That's all. Competition round. It's got to be handicap counting competition round. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of a very, very unusual episode of the Missing Links Golf Show.
I have to say that went in areas that I wasn't expecting when I was
Yeah.
writing out a bit of a bullet point plan for where we're going with it. But
Yep.
anyway,
Yep.
that's who we are.
We are now officially looking for a script writer and an editor. So if you know anyone, throw them our way.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you're still with us, congratulations and thank you so
Yes,
much for hanging in there.
for sure. For
And
sure.
if you are still with us, then please drop us a review. Like maybe just to, I would love to hear a review with a description of what this episode was actually all about, because I quite frankly don't know. And, however many stars, well, it feels like an 8-star episode, if you ask
Absolutely.
me.
For sure.
Yeah, look, click the auto download.
Hmm.
Jump on the Facebook page, the Missing Links Golf Show on Facebook or Missing Links Golf on Instagram, and please continue to stay tuned because we continue to work through our technical inabilities to get the YouTube channel up and running, but it's bound to happen at some point in the not too
Hmm.
distant future. And once it does, like honestly, it's going to be next level. It
Yeah.
really will.
I
I
mean,
hope.
look, who can't wait to see our faces on YouTube? I mean,
It's going to be a letdown.
yes. Oh well.
On that note, Andy Walker, feel like our our theme song. Don't think
Mm.
it wasn't written by Journey. Axel Grohl.
No, no, yeah.
Nice work, Axel
Yeah.
Grohl.
Well, Alex Grohl or
Alex Grohl? Could be
Alex Grohl,
Alex.
I think.
Same letters,
So
different order.
I don't know if he's a relative of Dave, but it's a pretty unusual
Obviously,
surname.
he
So
obviously is.
mm,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
would think it would be.
you would. On that note, let's uh let's listen to some of his finest work. Andy Walker, have a
Mm.
great week. Talk to you next time.
Have a great week, everyone.